obviously somewhat a surprise. How long were you planning that you were going to step down?
I've been wrestling with this decision actually for a few months, the issue for me is that there comes a turning point when you're not worried about losing the next election. You're actually worried about winning the next election and making another 4-year commitment.
So where were you on that?
Well, I was committed until we had some tough news about the health of my son, and we got some tough news last week. He was born with a rare bone disease. He's 2.5 now. He's a great little guy, and there are some complications. And there comes a point where after 15 years in politics, 5 terms, that you realize you have to make sure your priorities are right. And I'm just tired of leaving my son at the airport crying and coming to Ottawa, and it's just, cliches are cliches for a reason because they're usually true. And when you have a kid, everything changes. And my son is, I love him, and 15 years has been an amazing experience. And I'm still an MP up until the campaign, and I'm going to be campaigning for Stephen Harper all the way through. But I can't make another 4-year commitment.
It's my understanding that a lot of the MPs were told, well, all the MPs were given the order by party leadership that you need to make a decision now or go, and that was almost at the end of the year.
Not true. That first part is just not true. I think maybe it's inferred in a lot of things. But when things change, things change. And when you get news from a doctor about your son that's pretty tough, things change.
Did you connect or outreach with the Prime Minister, or did you speak to him about this decision?
Yeah, the Prime Minister's great on all
say?
this stuff. I'm not going to betray personal conversations, but just suffice it to say, Stephen Harper has got a big heart, and he's a great man, and he's a good friend of mine. He's our Prime Minister, he's my leader, he's my friend, and he understands my personal dynamic, and he's been nothing but great and supportive and great. So he's I think disappointed, but first and foremost, he understands that family comes first, and he's supportive.
Understandable. Now, of course, with you leaving, you're the 32nd Conservative MP who's announced they're not going to run again. To your opponents, they are going to say this fits the narrative of a tired government who's long in the tooth. In a sense that you contribute to that narrative. So what do you say to those people who say that?
Well, opposition parties will say whatever they'll say. That's fine. We're getting into the political season, so they'll say that. But I've been elected for 5 terms, 15 years. I'm one of the longest serving MPs from British Columbia. I've been in cabinet for 7 years, and I have a 2.5-year-old son who has some disabilities, and it's my circumstance. Peter MacKay, has a 2-year-old little boy and another one on the way. It's his personal family circumstance. But also there have been opposition MPs. In British Columbia, I think of Denise Savoie, who was an MP from Victoria, who left politics for her personal reasons, and others do as well. And I think on one level, people take partisan shots and say the high level stuff. But I think on a more human level, everybody kind of understands that 308 members of Parliament, that we're all human and we all have our own dynamics that are different, and we're pretty respectful of that. Now,
before I ask you about what you remember your highlights of your career and the lowlights, you've been around for a long time, as you've said. I wanted to ask you about the state of question period and the state of Parliament from the time you arrived to this place and now that you're leaving. How has that changed?
It ebbs and flows. I mean, different speakers of the House have a different ability to make Parliament work or not work. But ultimately, it's all about personnel and the way in which people carry themselves.
Has the quorum improved or has it decreased?
This Parliament actually is better, in spite of what sort of people have sort of this thought that things are kind of slowly disintegrating in terms of quality of debate in Parliament. This Parliament is actually more civil, I think, than the previous 2 or 3 for sure. But it's all about personalities. There are some people who just are super aggressive and angry in their prose and their questioning and heckling. There are other people who are more lighthearted. That was, of course, one of Jim Flaherty's legacies. I've had moments where I'm not proud of, and other moments where I'm more proud, I suppose. But overall, I think Parliament is it certainly needs more people who are interested in public policy.
We will get into the moments you're proud of, but you just referenced the moments you're not proud of. I mean, what are some dark times? Well, I'm just curious to get what do you think would be some of the dark times that you've had in your political career?
When I'm most disappointed in myself is actually when I lose my temper, when I just get sort of angry about something, and that's it hasn't really come across, I suppose, publicly, but that's sort of a frustration that I have. But I have to be honest with you, I don't have a lot of regrets, because usually if I've done something that I wish we had done this policy instead of that policy, or made that statement instead of another one, you learn from it, and so you're better for it. So mistakes are learning moments, and you shouldn't sort of dwell on them. So I don't really have a lot of regrets in that sense, and I really have kind of tried to live my public life so that when I look back in the past tense, and I talk about my political career in the past tense, that I would not have regrets, and that I kind of invest all my energy into public life, and I'm satisfied that I can look myself in the mirror and say that.
Now, if you reflect on your career, you've had some key cabinet posts, industry, heritage, you were Secretary of State during the Olympics. I mean, is there one crowning moment that you'll look back as to something that you have done that's changed this country, or that you're significantly proud of?
I think there was no finer moment in my hometown in British Columbia than when we hosted the 2010 Olympics, because it was just brilliant. Like, you know, the performance of our athletes winning the gold medals, the gold medal game of Sidney Crosby, the remarkable way in which the city united and inspirited a country. And don't forget, that was in early 2010, coming out of a recession. The country needed a rallying moment. And the City of Vancouver, VANOC, the Government of Canada, Government of British Columbia, we all came together and put on a brilliant show, and there's never been a better Olympics since then. So if there was one moment, that was great. And it just so happened that it was in my backyard as a Vancouverite. So I was very proud of that. And to get to be the Minister for the Olympics and to be there for those great moments, that was something I was proud of. And the second one, I would say, is arriving at a majority government in 2011. I remember when I first came to office as a Canadian Alliance MP, we broke into a civil war. The Conservative movement, it wasn't just Peter MacKay and Stephen Harper. The Conservative movement was broken into three pieces. There was Peter MacKay and the Progressive Conservatives, the Canadian Alliance, and then the disaffected independents. So three pieces came back together under Stephen Harper's leadership, and we went from 99 seats in 04 to 124 in 06 to 143 in 08 to 166 in 2011. But that trajectory of slowly and surely building the respect and support of Canadians to earn, not just win, but earn a majority government is something about which I'm very proud to have been a small part of, but just to watch Stephen Harper bring the family together and build the Conservative movement and earn a majority government is a great Canadian story.
And now, of course, you're going to be sitting on the sidelines this election as Stephen Harper goes to the electorate hoping for another term. There is a sense, and I'm sure you get this by people you speak with in your riding across the country, about maybe it's Stephen Harper's style, about the way he conducts himself, whether it's in the House or across the country. Is there something about him that he just doesn't, that people don't know about, that you wish Canadians would know?
Well, he's incredibly intelligent and substantive on public policy. But he's a good man. At core, he's a good man, and the way in which he's shown both sympathy and empathy towards me and my situation with my family and going east and west across the country has been really something that I've been very honored to have him as a friend in my life and to be so great about. But look, we're going into the next campaign with a leader who is tested and is substantive, and I have every confidence. I think we're going to win the next election. I actually don't think there's any doubt in most people's minds that Justin Trudeau is not ready to be Prime Minister, and Thomas Mulcair is Prime Minister ahead of a far, far left political party that has never governed is an incredible danger for Canada. So I think Stephen Harper stands as head and shoulders above the others as continuing on as Canada's Prime Minister. And I'm not going to be on the sidelines. I'm a member of Parliament right through until October 19th, Industry Minister right until October 19th, and I'm not going to be on the sidelines. I'm going to be on the front lines, campaigning, fighting, pushing to ensure that we elect more Conservatives from British Columbia and more across the country. Is
there somebody in mind to replace you as the MP for the nomination?
This is just news now. So I suspect there are people back home who are thinking about it. But look, we had, in the neighboring riding to mine, there were 5 people who ran for the nomination in a riding that we don't hold. There are a lot of talented men and women in the Conservative movement, in my riding, in the community. I have no question, no doubt in my mind that we're going to get a great candidate who will, I'm sure, carry on. And it can be seen. We have the former mayor of Surrey, Diane Watts, and Tim Laidler, for Afghan veteran, Mike Little, a councillor. Like, we've got a great crew of candidates, and my riding will be the same.
And I've got to ask you, because your name, of course, has been touted and floated as a potential leadership candidate. Is that still on the plate for you, if not now, but down the road?
Look, sincere when I mean it. I want Stephen Harper to stay in politics and stay as Prime Minister for as long as possible. When he first ran for leader back in 2002, there were 3 MPs who were his first supporters: James Rajat, myself, and Scott Reid. And we were the first 3. So I've been with Stephen Harper from the beginning, and I'm still with him, and I will be with him all the way through until when he chooses to leave public life. And we're very lucky that he's our Prime Minister. But look, I'm 39. I know that this chapter of my life in politics is something that I'm very proud of, and I'm ready to move away from. And I'm just looking forward to going home and being with my wife and my son.
I've got to press you, though. I mean, you are 39.
Yeah.
Is this something you might consider?
Like, I have. It's not something I've given any thought to. I'm really been focused on being an MP, doing my best as I can as industry minister, and now it's time for me to close this chapter on my public life and to go home.
So what's next?
We'll see. As you know, there are all kinds of rules, as ethics rules and conflict rules. As your industry minister, industry is the second largest department of government of Canada, and so there are all kinds of rules about pursuing job offers. But I'm not going to entertain anything or pursue that until after the election. I still have responsibilities to my constituents, still have responsibilities as industry minister. I'm not in any way slowing down in that. Then we're going to focus on re-electing the Prime Minister, and then after that I'll move on. But I'm still very much full-time between now and October 19th. And
I just wanted to get back just to Stephen Harper in a second, and I wanted to press on what I was asking earlier, because there is that narrative. You've said very positive things about him. It's not surprising that you would, but why does he have this caricature that's been developed of him, not just by the opposition, but even some conservatives say that too? Why does that continue to exist? As controlling, as somebody who doesn't respect the institution.
Well, yeah, I think it's ridiculous. Like, Stephen Harper, as I said, he has presented himself to Canadians in the 04, 06, 08, 11 election campaigns. And every single time he has gone to Canadians and asked them for their support, they've given him more support. Every time he has governed and gone back to Canadians, they have given him more support. So I think the view that Canadians take of Stephen Harper is of someone who is substantive, principled, and ready to lead this country moving forward. And that has always been the case. And the more the public has seen of Stephen Harper and the longer he has governed, the more support Canadians have given him. Now, you always have to earn it, and you have to refresh your mandate, and you have to continue to maintain your support amongst Canadians. But look, there are those who will never agree with some politicians, and that's fine. But the longer Stephen Harper has been around public life, the better he has done in every election. And it's because he's delivered for Canadians more effectively the longer he's been around.
Time is running short here, but I wanted to get back to you and what you've accomplished as minister and as an MP for a long time. Is there one policy or one initiative that you just couldn't get through that you wish you did?
The internal trade file, we're near the finish line on that. You know, we have an agreement from all the provinces to have a new internal free trade deal by March of 2016, which is tectonic in terms of the history of the file. Nothing has happened on that file for over 20 years. We have agreement from all 13 provinces, including Quebec. All 13 provinces are committed to having a comprehensive free trade deal for Canada, and we're halfway through the negotiations right now, and the premiers are all on side, and we're moving forward. That is game-changing in terms of the effectiveness and fluidity of the movement of goods, services, and people within Canada, so the economic union of Canada. So that's one thing that I wish we had been able to move faster on, but we're there, and we have a commitment from the provinces to deliver on it. So that's one thing that's not quite done. So we're in the red zone, we're knocking on the goal line, and we're very close to getting it through. So that's the one piece of unfinished work that I would like to see done.
Our local affiliates also doing this story today, and they're wondering, what kind of guarantees do you give them that whoever replaces you, one of a long-serving MP, will have a voice?
Well, first of all, elect a Conservative. No, look, We, from British Columbia, like quite sincerely, we have a really brilliant crop of candidates. Like we really do. We have men and women of diverse backgrounds and experiences in the business community. As I said, the former mayor of Surrey, Diane Watts, who, when she left public life last time, she was polled as the most popular and respected mayor in all the province of British Columbia. Tim Laidler, a young guy, Afghan veteran, speaks 3 languages, has a master's degree, thoughtful advocate for veterans. We've got a great group of candidates who I have no doubt will come to Ottawa and will deliver from a BC perspective.
Is there one element locally that you can point to that you would say would be one of your crown successes as their local MP?
The Evergreen Line. The largest infrastructure project in my community's history is being built. It's going to be open next year. As a federal government, we invested close to $450 million in order to make that happen. We were the first level of government to have our money on the table to deliver on that, and the construction is ongoing. But investment into infrastructure within my community and across the Lower Mainland is at an unprecedented level, and that improves everybody's quality of life. And when the time comes, I'm going to take Spencer and my wife, and we're going to go for the first ride in the Evergreen Line, and that'll be a good moment. And
before we wrap up, got to get your prediction. I know you're a strong Conservative. You've said it repeatedly that the Conservatives are going to win. Give me your seat prediction.
As they say, political prophecy is optional fallacy. I think Stephen Harper gets reelected. I think the country needs a majority government. We need the stability of a majority government.
Do you think there's going to be a majority? Or?
Yes, I think Stephen Harper can and will win a majority government. As time goes on over the next 4 months, as we get closer to October, and people really see the stark contrast, as I hope the Liberals continue to fade and the New Democrats are exposed for their hard left policies. I mean, you look at the stuff, look at the private members' bills they put forward, look at the questions that they ask in Parliament, the economic illiteracy, the foreign policy amateur hour that they have, that there really is only one clear choice for a responsible government, and that's Stephen Harper. And I think the argument for a majority, as the other side gets further exposed, is only going to get stronger.
Okay. James Moore, thanks so much for chatting with us. Congratulations and good luck, and I hope all works out.
Thanks, Richard. I appreciate it, man.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.